The massive Imperial fleet emerged from hyperspace near Earth's orbit, their ships gleaming like metal stars against the black void. Nearly 10,000 vessels, each larger than the largest human buildings, spread across the space between Earth and its moon. On board the United Earth Defense Force Command Station, Admiral James Thompson stood calmly watching the holographic display. His weathered face showed no sign of fear as he studied the enemy fleet. The officers around him worked quietly at their stations, their movements precise and unhurried. "They're hailing us, sir," reported Officer Mike from the communications desk. Thompson nodded. "Put them through." The holographic display shifted, revealing the image of a tall, blue-skinned being wearing ornate golden armor. The Imperial Grand Admiral's voice boomed through the speakers, translated in real time. "People of Earth, I am Grand Admiral Thex of the Eternal Galactic Empire. For 10,000 years, we have ruled the stars. Your planet now falls under our domain. Submit, and you will be granted the honor of joining our great empire. Resist, and we will be forced to demonstrate our power." The human officers exchanged knowing looks. Thompson stepped forward, his plain black uniform, a stark contrast to the Imperial's elaborate dress. "Grand Admiral," Thompson replied, his voice steady and almost friendly. "I am Admiral James Thompson of the United Earth Defense Force. We appreciate your offer, but I must warn you. For your own safety, turn back now." Laughter erupted from the Imperial command staff visible in the background of the transmission. Grand Admiral Thex's face showed a mixture of amusement and annoyance. "You dare threaten the Imperial fleet? We have conquered 1,000 worlds. Our technology is beyond your comprehension. Your primitive weapons cannot harm our shields." Thompson sighed, looking genuinely concerned for the Imperial fleet. "This isn't a threat, Grand Admiral. It's a friendly warning. We've checked our records. Your empire has never fought humans before. We'd like to keep it that way. You have one planetary rotation to surrender," Thex declared, ignoring Thompson's warning. "If you refuse, we will begin our attack." The transmission cut off. Thompson turned to his staff, who were already at work. "Sir," called out Officer Lisa from Tactical, "all defense platforms are ready. The moon base reports full combat readiness. Mars Defense Command is standing by." "And our stealth fleets?" Thompson asked. "In position, sir. The Empire hasn't detected them." Thompson walked to the station's main window, looking out at Earth below. The blue planet spun peacefully, its cities glittering like diamonds in the night side. He remembered reading about humanity's ancient wars, how they had forced his species to develop increasingly powerful weapons. The Empire had no idea what they were walking into. "Send a message to all Earth Defense Commands," Thompson ordered. "Authorization code, Delta 77. Defensive positions only. No first strikes." "Sir," Officer Mike spoke up, "we're detecting energy builds up in the Imperial fleet. They're powering weapons." Thompson shook his head. "They always choose the hard way." He pressed a button on his command console. "This is Admiral Thompson to all Earth forces. You know the drill. Minimal force only. Let's try to avoid unnecessary casualties." The command station hummed with activity as officers prepared for battle. No one showed any sign of panic or fear. This wasn't humanity's first contact with hostile aliens, and they had learned from each encounter. "One last thing," Thompson added. "Send them our standard warning package. Let them see what they're getting into." Officer Lisa nodded, transmitting a data burst to the Imperial fleet. It contained carefully selected footage from Earth's military history, ancient battles, modern conflicts, and recordings from humanity's previous encounters with hostile species. The package ended with a simple message: "Last chance. Please withdraw." The Imperial fleet's response came minutes later. Their weapons were now fully charged, their ships moving into attack formation. "They didn't even look at the warning package," Mike reported. Thompson nodded, unsurprised. "Well, we tried." He straightened his uniform, and gave the order that would start humanity's first war with the Galactic Empire. Defensive protocols authorized. Remember everyone, minimal force. We're not here to destroy them, just to teach them why picking a fight with humans is a bad idea. Around Earth, hidden defense platforms powered up, stealth ships decloaked, and humanity prepared to show the Empire why they should have heeded the warning to run. In the Imperial Palace on the capital world of Prime, Grand Admiral Thex stood before the Emperor's War Council, his confident posture now replaced with visible concern. The holographic displays around him showed intelligence reports about Earth, each more disturbing than the last. "My lords," Thex began, "our initial assessment of the humans was incorrect. The Intelligence Division has uncovered troubling information about their history." He gestured, and the main display showed scenes from Earth's past conflicts. The council members watched in silence as images of ancient battles gave way to modern warfare. Commander Marcus, a veteran of 300 campaigns, leaned forward in his seat. Unlike his younger colleagues, he recognized the implications of what he was seeing. "These humans," he said slowly, "they'd fought more wars among themselves than our entire empire has in 10,000 years. "Impossible," declared one of the younger council members. "They're confined to one planet. How could they?" "Not just wars," Thex interrupted, his blue skin pale with worry. "They've had arms races, cold wars, proxy conflicts. They developed nuclear weapons, then kept fighting anyway. They created rules for war, then found ways around them. Every time they weren't fighting others, they'd fought themselves." The display shifted to show human military installations. What had initially looked like primitive bases now revealed subtle signs of advanced technology. The council members began to understand why the first attack fleet had gone silent. Commander Marcus stood up, his aged voice carrying the weight of experience. "Look at their orbital defenses. Those aren't just weapons platforms. They're layered in ways I'd never seen. They're designed to counter attacks from technologically superior forces." "But how?" another council member demanded. "They've never faced our level of technology before." "Because they imagined it," Marcus replied. "These humans, they spend their peaceful times preparing for war. They create stories about invasions, plan defenses against enemies they haven't met yet. Everything we might try, they've already thought of." The display changed again, showing human entertainment media. The council watched in stunned silence as decades-old human science fiction predicted nearly exact scenarios of how the Empire would attack. "They turned warfare into a science," Thex explained. "While we focused on expanding our territory, they focused on perfecting combat. Their weapons might look primitive, but that's deliberate. They're designed to appear harmless until it's too late." A junior intelligence officer stepped forward, holding a data crystal. "My lords, we've also discovered why our first fleet failed. The humans have developed quantum-based weaponry. They didn't build bigger guns. They found ways to ignore our shields completely." Commander Marcus walked to the main display, pointing at Earth's moon. "Look at these readings. Their lunar base isn't just a military installation. It's a weapon testing ground. They've been practicing planetary defense for centuries." "Surely our numbers will overwhelm them," suggested one of the council members. "We still have vast fleets in reserve." "Numbers meant nothing to the first fleet," Thex reminded them. "And now we've lost the element of surprise. They'll be ready for everything else we try." The Emperor, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. "What do you suggest, Commander Marcus? You've fought more campaigns than anyone in this room." Marcus looked at the display of Earth one last time before answering. "We should have listened to their warning to run. This species, they don't want to fight us, but they're prepared to. Every time they faced a challenge, they adapted. Every time they found a problem, they solved it. They're not just ready for war, they're ready for wars we haven't even thought of yet." "Then we must strike now," declared one of the younger commanders. "Before they can." "No," Marcus cut him off. "Don't you understand? We're not seeing their true capabilities yet. These defenses, these weapons, they're just the surface. A species that survived its own nuclear age, that thrived despite constant conflict. They're not showing us everything. They're waiting to see what we do next. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The mighty Galactic Empire, ruler of 1,000 worlds, had finally met a species that didn't fear them, because humans had spent their entire history preparing for this moment, and they still hadn't shown their real strength. Despite Commander Marcus's warnings, the Emperor ordered a show of force against the human colony on Mars. 5,000 Imperial warships emerged from hyperspace above the Red Planet, their weapons already charged. Fleet Commander Rex stood on his bridge, watching the human settlement below. Primitive, he scoffed, noting the simple dome structures and exposed mining equipment. This will be over quickly. Sir, his sensor officer called out, we're detecting no defensive installations. The humans appear to be unarmed. Rex smiled. Send the ultimatum. They have 5 minutes to surrender before we destroy their atmospheric generators. The response came almost immediately. A single line of text. Please don't do this. Begin the attack, Rex ordered, ignoring the warning. The Imperial fleet's first volley lit up space, thousands of energy beams striking toward the Martian surface. But something strange happened. The beams never reached their targets. They simply vanished. Sir, the sensor officer shouted, energy readings all around us. The surface installations, they're not what they seem. The simple dome structures below began to transform. What looked like mining equipment split apart, revealing advanced weapon systems. The exposed pipes and tubes morphed into defense towers. The entire colony shed its primitive disguise like a snake shedding its skin. Impossible, Rex whispered. The human counterattack began without warning. Quantum torpedoes phased through Imperial shields as if they weren't there. Enemy ships exploded silently in the void. The fleet's most advanced warships, pride of the Empire, were torn apart by weapons that didn't seem to care about the laws of physics. They're inside our formation. Someone screamed. How did they get inside our formation? Human stealth ships appeared from nowhere, their hulls seeming to ripple into existence. They weren't large or impressive looking, but their weapons cut through Imperial armor like it was paper. Rex watched in horror as his fleet died around him. Return fire. All ships, return fire. But the human vessels were already gone, vanishing as quickly as they had appeared. Their attacks came from impossible angles, striking vital systems with surgical precision. Sir, his communications officer reported, voice shaking, we're receiving a transmission from the surface. The bridge display activated, showing the human commander. He looked almost bored. This is Colonel William of Mars Defense Command. You were warned. Please withdraw your remaining ships before we're forced to destroy them too. We are the Imperial fleet. Rex shouted. We do not retreat. 300 of your ships are already destroyed. William replied calmly. We're using less than 10% of our defensive capability. This isn't a battle. It's a demonstration. Please don't make us escalate. As if to emphasize his point, another wave of quantum torpedoes struck the fleet. 50 more ships vanished in balls of fire. Sir, the sensor officer reported, we're detecting energy builds up from the surface. They're powering up something big. On the surface of Mars, massive doors opened in the ground. Artillery platforms rose from hidden bunkers. The entire planet seemed to bristle with weapons that had been invisible moments before. Last warning, Colonel Williams said. We've adapted our weapons to disable rather than destroy. The next wave will shut down your ship's systems completely. You can either retreat under your own power, or we can tow your powerless vessels back to Imperial space. Your choice. Rex looked at his tactical display. In just 15 minutes, he had lost more than half his fleet. None of their return fire had even reached the human positions. Their sensors couldn't lock onto the enemy ships. Their shields were useless. Sir, his second-in-command whispered, we should withdraw. We can't. We can't fight them. Rex's pride warred with his survival instinct. Then another wave of quantum torpedoes flashed past his ship, destroying his last line of heavy cruisers. All ships, he finally ordered, his voice hoarse. Retreat. Emergency jump to rally point Omega. As the remains of his fleet flowed into hyperspace, Rex looked one last time at the human colony below. The weapons were already disappearing, the settlement returning to its harmless appearance. He realized with a chill that this wasn't just a military defeat, it was a message. The humans hadn't just beaten them. They had done it while barely trying. The Imperial Palace shook with Emperor Robert's rage. He smashed another holographic display, showing the Mars defeat, his face red with fury. "Impossible," he roared. "We are the Empire. We cannot be defeated by a single planet species." Commander Marcus watched silently as younger officers scrambled to avoid the Emperor's wrath. The latest intelligence reports sat heavy in his hands, reports that would only make things worse. "My Emperor," Marcus said quietly, "there's more." The room fell silent. The Emperor turned, his eyes narrowing. "Speak." The humans. Marcus activated a new holographic display. They'd been preparing for this war long before we found them. We've discovered their sleeper cells throughout Imperial space. The display showed hundreds of seemingly innocent trading posts, mining operations, and research stations scattered across Imperial territory. All of them were actually hidden human military bases. "How long?" the Emperor demanded. "Decades, at least. They've been infiltrating our space since before we knew they existed. Every civilian operation they established contained hidden military capabilities. They've mapped our defenses, studied our technologies, found our weaknesses." A new alert flashed across the display. Another Imperial fleet had gone dark, this time near the core worlds. The humans were no longer waiting to be attacked. "Their stealth technology," Marcus continued, "it's far beyond what we thought possible. Our best sensors can't detect their ships until it's too late. They've been watching us, learning our patterns, positioning their forces. Then we'll find them." The Emperor declared, "We'll sweep every sector, every system." "We tried," Marcus replied, showing footage from the latest search attempts. "Their cloaking technology doesn't just hide their ships, it makes them completely invisible to every detection method we have. When we get close, they simply move somewhere else." The palace shook again, but this time it wasn't from the Emperor's rage. Emergency alarms blared throughout the complex. "Report," the Emperor demanded. A young officer rushed in, his uniform disheveled. "Human forces just appeared in orbit. They were here all along, sir, watching us. Our planetary shields didn't even detect them." Marcus wasn't surprised. He'd started to understand how humans thought, how they planned. "They're not just fighting a war," he explained. "They're teaching us a lesson. Each attack shows us another aspect of their capabilities." The display showed human ships appearing and disappearing around Imperial defenses. They struck with precision, destroying key military installations while leaving civilian structures untouched. "Look at their attack patterns," Marcus pointed out. "They're not trying to conquer us. They're systematically dismantling our ability to make war. Every target they destroy weakens our military capability while minimizing civilian casualties." The Emperor slumped in his throne, watching as centuries of Imperial military supremacy crumbled before an enemy they couldn't even fight properly. "How?" he whispered. "How did they become so powerful?" "Because they never stopped preparing for war," Marcus answered. "Every peaceful moment was spent improving their defenses. Every scientific advancement was examined for military applications. They built their entire civilization ready for a fight they hoped would never come." Another alert flashed. Human forces had been detected near 3 more core worlds. Imperial fleets scrambled to respond, but they were fighting an enemy that could strike anywhere, anytime, without warning. "They'd been in position for years," Marcus continued. "Every time we expand our search, We find more of their hidden bases, more stealth ships, more sleeping weapons. They didn't just prepare for war. They prepared for war with a technologically superior enemy. They built their defenses assuming their opponent would have better ships, better shields, better weapons. The Emperor watched as another Imperial fleet disappeared from tactical displays, destroyed by an enemy they never even saw. "What can we do?" he asked, his voice hollow. Marcus looked at the latest intelligence reports again. "We can do what they told us to do in the beginning," he said quietly. "We can run, because this isn't even their full capability. They're still holding back, still giving us chances to withdraw. And I fear what will happen when they decide to stop being merciful." The palace shook one final time as human ships appeared directly over the capital city, their weapons primed but not firing. The message was clear. The war could end any time the Empire chose. They just had to admit they'd picked a fight they couldn't win. General Thomas stood aboard the human flagship Deterrent, watching the uninhabited gas giant on his display screen. Behind him, the bridge crew worked silently, preparing for what would become the most significant demonstration of human military power in history. "All systems ready, sir," reported Officer Jack from the weapons station. "Planet Cracker is armed and locked on target." Thomas nodded slowly. He hadn't wanted to reveal this weapon, but the Empire's stubbornness had forced their hand. "Send the standard warning to all Imperial observation posts in the sector." The message was simple. Clear the area. Weapons test in progress. Imperial ships had been shadowing human fleets since the Mars incident, staying just at the edge of sensor range. Now they watched, probably thinking they were about to witness another display of human stealth technology or quantum weapons. They were wrong. "Begin the demonstration," Thomas ordered. A single beam of energy, barely visible to the naked eye, shot from the Deterrent's main weapon array. It struck the gas giant's atmosphere. And for a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the planet began to break apart. The beam had triggered a chain reaction in the gas giant's core, causing it to collapse in on itself. The planet's own mass became its destroyer, its layers peeling away like an onion being torn apart by invisible hands. "Imperial ships are broadcasting in the clear," Jack reported. They're panicking." "Sir." Thomas understood why. The Empire had weapons that could crack a planet's crust or burn away its atmosphere. But this was different. This was a weapon that used a planet's own structure to destroy it. No defense could stop it. No shield could block it. "Send the second message," Thomas ordered. All Imperial observers received the transmission. "This weapon can be modified for use on any planetary body. We possess 17 of them. This is why we warned you to run." The gas giant's destruction continued, its remains creating a new asteroid field. Imperial ships fled the scene, jumping to hyperspace in such a hurry that several of them clipped each other during their escape. "Sir," Jack called out, "we're getting reports from all sectors. Imperial worlds are broadcasting surrenders. They're begging us not to use the planet Cracker on inhabited worlds." Thomas allowed himself a small smile. "Send the standard response to all surrender requests." The message went out. Surrender accepted. No planetary populations were ever targeted. Humans do not destroy civilian worlds. On his tactical display, Thomas watched as Imperial resistance crumbled across the galaxy. The planet Cracker demonstration had been the final straw. Even the most hardened Imperial commanders couldn't face an enemy that could literally tear worlds apart. "Message from Earth Command," Jack announced. "Admiral Thompson says Phase 3 is complete. We can begin the withdrawal." Thomas nodded. Everything had gone according to the plan developed decades ago. First, show the Empire that their technology couldn't protect them. Then, demonstrate that humans had been prepared all along. Finally, reveal a weapon so powerful that continued resistance would be suicidal. "Send word to all fleet elements," Thomas ordered. "Begin falling back to our pre-war positions. Maintain stealth coverage, but do not engage unless attacked." As his orders spread across human forces, Thomas thought about how differently this could have gone. If the Empire had just listened to the initial warning, if they had just taken the time to understand what they were dealing with. "Sir," Jack interrupted his thoughts, "we're picking up a transmission from the Imperial Palace. The Emperor, he's requesting a direct meeting with human leadership." Thomas checked the tactical display one last time. Human stealth ships still surrounded every major Imperial world, their planet crackers ready but never intended to be used. The very presence of such weapons had accomplished what they were meant to do, and the war before it could escalate to true destruction. "Send the response," Thomas said. "Tell them we'll meet, and inform them that all human forces will remain in position until negotiations are complete." As the message went out, Thomas watched the remains of the gas giant continuing to break apart. The demonstration had worked perfectly. The Empire now understood that they hadn't just started a war with humans. They had challenged a species that had turned warfare into an art form. And finally, they had learned to run. Deep in the Imperial archives, Commander Marcus stood before a massive holographic display, surrounded by ancient records. After the planet cracker demonstration, the Emperor had ordered a complete investigation into human history. What they found changed everything. "Play the historical analysis," Marcus ordered. The display lit up, showing Earth's position in the galaxy. Red markers appeared, indicating hostile alien species that had existed near human space throughout history. "This can't be right," his assistant said, checking the data again. According to these records, humans weren't just fighting themselves. They were fighting for survival. Marcus finished. Earth was located in one of the most dangerous sectors of space. 3 different aggressive species evolved within striking distance of their world. The display showed ancient battles, long before the Empire discovered Earth. Humanity had faced its first alien invasion before they even had spaceflight. They had won using nuclear weapons and sheer determination. "The swarm came first," Marcus explained, pointing to the records. "A hive mind species that tried to consume Earth's biomass. Humans destroyed them using weapons that should have been beyond their technology level." The display shifted, showing another conflict. Then the crystal mines attacked, thinking Earth would make a good colony world. Humans were still recovering from fighting the swarm, but they adapted. They developed quantum weapons specifically to shatter crystal mine technology. His assistant stared at the battle recordings. "How did we not know about these wars?" "Because humans are very good at cleaning up after themselves," Marcus replied. "They didn't just win their wars. They erased all evidence that their enemies ever existed. By the time we found Earth, there was nothing left of the species they had defeated." The final battle recording played, showing humanity's most recent victory before meeting the Empire. "The Machine Collective was their last opponent before us," Marcus continued. "A synthetic species that tried to hack Earth's computer networks. Humans responded by developing AI technology so advanced it scared them, then locked it away after winning the war." "So when we arrived," his assistant began. "When we arrived, we weren't facing a primitive single-world species," Marcus said. "We were facing survivors, a species that had evolved in combat, that had defeated every threat they encountered. Their technology, their strategies, their weapons, all of it was developed through actual combat against advanced alien species." The display showed human military advancement over time. Each conflict had pushed them to develop new technologies, new ways of fighting. Their rapid advancement wasn't just due to innovation. It was driven by necessity. "Look at their doctrine," Marcus pointed out. "Multiple layers of defense, weapons designed to counter advanced technology, stealth systems that hide their true capabilities. They didn't develop these by accident. They built them because they had to survive." A new alert flashed across the display. More Imperial worlds were surrendering as the truth spread. The mighty Empire hadn't just picked a fight with humans. They had challenged a species that had never known true peace. Their location in space forced them to become warriors, Marcus explained. While the Empire was expanding through empty systems, Humans were fighting for their very existence. They didn't just learn to fight. They learned to win against impossible odds. The assistant studied Earth's position again. But the hostile species, they're all gone now. Exactly, Marcus said grimly. Humans don't just fight wars. They end them permanently. They fight with total commitment. The Empire was actually lucky. Lucky, we lost our entire military capability. Yes, but humans showed restraint with us. They gave warnings. They used minimal force. They avoided civilian casualties. Marcus turned off the display. They didn't fight us like they fought their other enemies, because they didn't see us as a true threat to their existence. The final pieces of data scrolled across his screen. Human technological advancement rates, military doctrine evolution, weapon development cycles. Everything pointed to one undeniable truth. Humanity's real power wasn't their weapons or their strategies. Their power was their ability to adapt, to take every defeat, and turn it into a future victory. They had survived and thrived in a sector of space that should have killed them. And now the Empire understood why humans had tried to warn them away. It hadn't been arrogance or bravado. It had been experience. The Imperial Palace's grand meeting hall had never seen a gathering quite like this. Emperor Robert sat on one side of the massive table, surrounded by his advisors. On the other side sat Admiral Thompson and General Thomas, wearing their simple black uniforms that now carried more weight than any Imperial decoration. "You could have conquered us," the Emperor said, breaking the silence. "Your planet crackers, your stealth fleets. You could have destroyed our worlds one by one." Thompson shook his head. "That was never our goal. Humans learned long ago that destruction is easy. Building something better, that's the real challenge." Commander Marcus, standing behind the Emperor, stepped forward. "We've studied your history now. We understand why you are what you are. Then you understand why we're offering this instead of demanding surrender." Thomas replied, activating a holographic display between them. The display showed a new structure, a joint defense force combining human and Imperial strengths. Not a surrender, but an alliance. "Your empire has grown too large to defend effectively," Thompson explained. "You've spread your forces thin, focused on expansion rather than security. Meanwhile, we've spent centuries perfecting the art of defense." The Emperor studied the proposal. "You want to protect us. After we attack you, we want to protect everyone," Thompson corrected. "Humans know what it's like to face extinction. We don't want others to experience that. Your empire provides stability, trade, cultural exchange. We can provide security." The display shifted, showing integrated fleet formations, human stealth ships working alongside Imperial cruisers, planet cracker technology modified to become a defensive shield rather than a weapon. "Your technological advancement was driven by conflict," Marcus observed. "But your ethics, they evolved with it." Thomas nodded. "Each war taught us not just how to fight, but why to fight. We learned to be warriors without losing our humanity. That's what we're offering you now, not just protection, but guidance." The Emperor looked at the casualty reports from their brief war. Somehow, despite their overwhelming power, humans had managed to defeat the Imperial military while causing minimal loss of life. "And if we refuse?" he asked. "Then we go back to our space, you go back to yours, and we hope we never have to meet in battle again." Thompson replied simply, "We don't want to rule you. We just want to make sure no one else has to learn warfare the way we did." The Emperor stood, walking to a window overlooking his capital city. Human stealth ships were out there, invisible but present. They had been there for years, watching, waiting, hoping conflict could be avoided. "All this power," he mused, "and you choose to protect rather than conquer. That's why we're still here," Thomas said. "Every species we fought before you, they wanted to destroy, to consume, to conquer. They didn't survive. We learned that true strength isn't about destruction. It's about preservation." The Emperor turned back to the table. And what happens to my empire under this alliance? It grows stronger, Thompson replied. Your people focus on what they do best: culture, commerce, expansion. We focus on what we do best: keeping everyone safe. The room fell silent as the Emperor considered the proposal. Finally, he walked back to the table and pressed his hand to the document reader. We accept your offer, he declared. As the alliance was formalized, Thompson looked out at the capital city. Somewhere out there, humans were already preparing to integrate with Imperial forces, to teach them, to protect them. We didn't want war, Thompson said quietly, repeating the words he had spoken at their first meeting. We just got very, very good at it. And now, the Emperor asked. Now we get to do something better than winning wars, Thompson replied. We get to prevent them. Outside, the first visible human ships appeared in the sky above the capital, their weapons powered down, their presence now a symbol of protection rather than threat. The Empire had gained not just allies, but teachers, a species that had mastered the art of war and chosen to use that mastery for peace. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly what humanity had been fighting for all along.